Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Schultz. I am the Manager of Community Engagement here at Grant's office, and today we're going to be discussing the grant funding landscape for economic development, both across the United States and Canada. Our topics today are going to be relevant not only for both countries, but also for all sorts of organizations in our audience who are actively engaged in economic development. So we've got content for folks who are in the public sector, our local governments, utility providers, workforce training organizations, our chambers of commerce, and then we also have content relevant to those folks with us from the private sector, whether you're a small business or a startup, or maybe you're part of a large firm that's looking to open a new location in a new city. Really, we've got a wide range of audience members here with us today, and we're just really excited to have all of you. And since we do kind of have that broad range, we're going to talk about not only the funding landscape for economic development, what grants are supporting it, but also how can you collaborate on a grant proposal. So as you can see in our title, we understand that this takes a village, really, to be truly successful in economic development efforts. So we want to share our perspective on what that collaboration looks like, and then how to work it into your grant seeking practices. Before we get started today, I've got two housekeeping items for you. First, you can ask questions at any time today during today's event. You can use the question and answer interface on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Feel free to submit as many questions as you'd like, and we'll get to as many as possible towards the end of our hour here today. And then also you should note the session is being recorded. The recording is going to be available for download at the Grants Office website starting tomorrow. And the PowerPoint slides that we're going to share here today are also going to be available at that same location. So again, today we're talking about a funding landscape for economic development. We're joined today here by actually an international panel of grant experts here at Grant's Office. We have Amanda Day and Joe Phelan from our U.S. office, who both serve as grants development consultants. And we're also joined by Aubeeluck here from Ottawa, who is our lead funding consultant for Canadian opportunities. Across all three of these individuals, you've got a plethora of not only professional backgrounds, but also areas of grants expertise. And I really think you guys are going to learn a lot from them today. They've got some really great information to share with you. So here's our quick run through of our agenda over the next 50 to 60 minutes or so. Amanda's going to kick us off with a quick introduction to economic development itself. What is it? Who's involved? What are some key benchmarks for measuring success? And then really at the end of the day, why does it all matter? Then Joe and Sid are going to bring us through 4 central themes that grant funders like to support in economic development projects. What are those key themes, and then how do they end up turning into funded projects? From there, we'll share 4 example grants in the economic development landscape. These examples are going to be from both the US and Canada, but I think you're going to find that there are more similarities than there are differences between those 2 countries and their individual funding landscapes. And then finally, Amanda's going to bring us home with those tips on how to collaborate on a grant proposal. Again, we're going to end with a Q&A session from our audience, so feel free to drop any questions into the chat as they come up during our presentation today. So with that, I'm going to kick things off and set it off with Amanda. Amanda?
Thanks, Ashley, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and I think we put together a great presentation that not only highlights the wide range of available grant funding opportunities, but it also provides practical guidance on how communities can come together to take advantage of those resources. So our goal is to show that grants are more than just financial support. They're tools that can help strengthen collaboration, spark innovation, and drive meaningful progress. By working collectively, communities can leverage these opportunities to advance economic development, create a stronger local partnership, and ultimately enhance overall quality of life for its citizens. So before discussing the grants landscape and how grants can help, we need to kind of explain what we mean by economic development. So by definition, economic development is the ongoing process of increasing an area's wealth and improving overall quality of life for its residents, measured by economic indicators like jobs and income, and social factors like education and infrastructure. It's a holistic approach that goes beyond simply attracting new businesses and focuses on strengthening the entire community well-being. So with that being said, we want to talk a little about why it matters. You know, what is it accomplishing and why do we need to invest in it? So it matters because these types of initiatives play a vital role in shaping the health, resilience, and future opportunities in different communities. So investing in growth and innovation helps create environments where people want to live, where they want to work, and where they can thrive, both personally and professionally. Key outcomes include a stronger, more resilient economy, reduced poverty and unemployment, access to better education, healthcare, and housing, and an increased focus on innovation and a motivation to succeed, to make their communities the best they can be. So some key investment areas we're going to talk about today are on the screen in front of you. So they create the foundation for a strong, resilient, and thriving community. So what areas are typically addressed? We are directing sources in areas such as workforce development and job creation, critical infrastructure, community development, and innovation. So by making these investments, we can generate jobs, attract new businesses, improve quality of life, improve our schools, improve healthcare, improve museums and libraries, all the infrastructure that's involved in creating a really great place to live. So we'll dive deeper into these areas a little bit later in the presentation and kind of explain how grant funds tie in with investments in these areas and how we measure it. So there are ways you can measure the success or ultimate failure of a project. So measurement isn't just about success rates. We're looking at developing answers to issues that might pop up if it doesn't work. So it's about learning, improving, and making sure these efforts deliver real and lasting benefits to a community. So it's tracked through key indicators that reflect the health and growth. So common measures include job creation and employment rates, the median income levels, poverty rates, infrastructure improvements, access to education, and then really an overall economic output or GDP. So tracking these metrics helps communities understand progress, identify the challenges that they have when these initiatives aren't as successful as they'd like, and ensure accountability. So knowing what investments worked and what were not as successful also helps guide long-term planning efforts. We don't want to say that something failed. We just see it as an opportunity to do better in the future, to learn from issues might have come up or failures within the project. And ultimately, in order to be successful, these types of projects need collaboration. You cannot do this on your own. There are several different stakeholders. So private and public partnerships are essential for this development. They combine strengths from both sectors. Governments can provide funding, regulatory support, and infrastructure. And then private partners are able to innovate, provide expertise and capital. So together they make the large scale project feasible. So by taking on partners and really working together, something that meant to be unachievable for a smaller community is now achievable because we have partnerships and vibes. So this stimulates job creation, drives innovation, and delivers outcomes that directly improve the well-being of that community. So why is it essentially a collaborative effort? So, what makes it more successful when you have partners? So they're essential to accomplish all the elements we've discussed so far. So it works best when governments, businesses, and the community collaborate, pooling their resources, pulling expertise to drive that growth, and that benefits everyone involved. For example, governments create those policies and provide infrastructure. Businesses can generate jobs, innovate, and invest in local economies. Educational institutions develop that skilled workforce and provide training, and that fosters research, especially institutes of higher education. Nonprofit and community groups advocate for equity and inclusion. And finally, residents provide input, require accountability, and participate in shaping their community's future. So with all of those building blocks in place, all of that knowledge, we then find that the communities may struggle to fully fund the initiatives they want to take on, that they just don't have the funds in their budget. So that's where grant funding comes in, and that's why we're talking about this today. How can grants help communities develop and implement these projects that may be beyond their reach financially, but with a little bit of grant work and research, funding can be provided to improve the outcomes of the programs. So they provide that additional funding for communities to launch projects that, again, might otherwise be delayed or scaled back due to those limited funds. So next up, Joe and Sid will explore how grants serve as a critical component for communities' growth and the future success in the US and Canada. So Sid and Joe.
Perfect. Thank you, Amanda. So now that we have a big picture overview of what economic development is, let's take a closer look at funding. So who's putting money in, where it's going, and the kinds of projects it's supporting in both the public and private sectors. So Joy and I work with both types of organizations, but during the presentation, I'll focus primarily on the private sector, and Joe will cover public sector entities. All right, so as Amanda outlined, funding in economic development falls under four major themes. So firstly, we have workforce development. So this is all about preparing people with the skills they need for the jobs of today, but also the jobs of tomorrow. So this type of funding often supports training and reskilling programs. So I'll give you an example, digital literacy training for workers transitioning into new industries. The second big theme is innovation. So this focuses on fueling research, commercialization, and the adoption of new technologies. A good example here would be grants to help a university and a local business work together to bring a clean tech solution to market. The third theme is critical infrastructure. So this is all about building and modernizing the systems that keep the economy running. That might mean, for example, funding rural broadband expansion to connect more communities and businesses. And then finally, we have community development. So this supports projects that improve quality of life and helps regions attract both talent and investment. For example, that could include funding for creating new green community spaces. So now that we have that background, let's take a closer look at each one of these themes.
Federal and local governments, along with public and private foundations, create programs to help people build skills, find jobs, as well as to support a strong and thriving thriving economy. So who's actually receiving this funding and what types of organizations are putting these programs into action? On the public sector side, main actors are going to include workforce organizations such as labor unions, workforce agencies, state or provincial run organizations. You have local governments, so cities or towns, municipalities, counties, libraries, schools, whether it's any type of education from kindergarten through senior year of high school, community colleges, universities, technical or junior colleges. And then you have some nonprofit organizations, which come from all sizes, whether it's a community-specific foundation or a larger nonprofit, organizations that partner with governments or businesses to provide employment opportunities. And then there's housing agencies. So there's some public housing authorities, as well as local and provincial ministries of housing organizations that allow for their residents to acquire the skills needed to have successful employment. And then you have some community development organizations, for instance, in the U.S., Habitat for Humanity, as well as some youth organizations, such as like the YMCA. These organizations provide opportunities for young people to have valuable job experience.
On the private sector side, the main actors seeking funding for workforce development include individual employers. So they usually apply for support to train their current and future workers. We have industry associations and sector councils. They often take a broader view by coordinating sector-wide skills initiatives. We also have private training providers, so they'll develop and deliver specialized programs tailored to employer needs. And then obviously large employers in federally regulated sectors. So for example, transportation or banking, and they often look for funding to support mandatory training or those really big workforce programs.
So the private sector definitely works often with the public sector by sharing the cost of training, giving input on course design to make sure it matches real job needs, as well as teaming up on programs that benefit both businesses as well as the broader community. So what kinds of projects are federal and local governments, as well as these public and private foundations looking to fund? What initiatives do they support? It's going to depend on whether on the public or private side, funders are often going to share similar priorities. So you have job creation, any type of private company that's looking to expand into a new or existing market can help the workforce by creating new jobs, close skill gaps through training. So apprenticeships in key sectors, also reskill in current workforce with the future, AI right now, and as well as other emerging technologies. Reskilling is definitely a major funding opportunity. Address labor shortages. So key industries that are going to be established by the government will be the focus of many competitive grant programs, whether it's construction, agriculture, healthcare, hospitality, manufacturing, energy. Those are going to be some of those focus areas. Expanding access for opportunities. It could be as simple as offering childcare so a parent can work or train, public transportation, and then also just general awareness that good paying jobs are available in these key areas. And then promote equity and inclusion. Workforce development that promotes equity and inclusion allows everyone in the community to be involved in the process of workforce development.
And then finally, our last point there, supporting sector transformation. This is often more of a private sector focus, where funding is going to help companies modernize operations, adopt new tech, or shift towards greener practices. These changes don't just influence one company, but can ripple out to the whole workforce, raise industry standards, and then just boost overall competitiveness. So yeah, it's by working together on these shared priorities that public and private actors can strengthen the workforce, expand opportunities, and prepare industries for future challenges. Now, by investing in workforce development, we're not just building skills, we're also laying the foundation for innovation, which is another key priority in economic development. So let's switch gears and explore how funding supports research, new ideas, and collaborative projects.
So Sid, I'm so sorry. This is Ashley. Just going to jump in here really quick. We've got some folks saying that they're not able to see the slide deck that we're sharing. So our media coordinator, I'm so sorry, folks, is just going to drop the slide deck and then reload it in. And then hopefully that solves some visual issues. And then we'll hop right into the innovation section. Just give us one moment. Okay, we should be all set there now, Sid. Sid and Joe, please hop back in.
All good. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, so I'll pass it over to Joe, and he'll explore who's receiving the grants on the innovation side.
Thank you so much, Sid. And when you think innovation, you mainly think the private sector. You think organizations that are creating the technologies that are being established on the day-to-day basis, which I'll let Sid speak about in momentarily. But from the public sector side of things, we see cities and towns, municipalities and counties taking advantage of these funds, focused on helping utilities, transportation, sustainability, public safety, just general health of the community. Innovations definitely plays a role there. Universities, more so the research and development of innovation. And then nonprofit organizations, a lot of times are focused on more big picture goals. It could be climate related or energy efficiency related. Basically, how can the community build towards the future?
On the private side, we have startups, small and medium-sized businesses, and big corporations, as well as tech firms. They're all creating new technologies and commercializing research, and they're often teaming up with academia and public sector partners to co-develop projects. Usually private actors tend to drive market-ready solutions, so think of things like AI projects, clean energy innovations, or advanced manufacturing initiatives that benefit both industry but also local communities.
So how do funders step in to support innovation? Let's dive in. For public sector actors, there's some focus here on advanced community sustainability goals. So that could be renewable energy projects, reducing waste, the improvements of smart grids, anything related to fostering a sustainable future. Smart city initiatives enablement is definitely a big one. You can have intelligent traffic management to reduce congestion, smart waste management or water systems to optimize efficiencies, any type of sensors, smart buildings for energy efficiency, as well as using advanced analytics to enable more informed governance. Those are some examples of smart city initiatives. You have the research and development component. So colleges and universities are going to work to solve problems established by the federal, state, or provincial governments. They're going to work with the private sector often in this regard. And then just use of technology in general, the promotion of technology and digital transformation, general upgrades to the town or city's IT department, whether it's cybersecurity, emergency services, just modernizing the systems more so for the 21st century.
And then when it comes to for-profit entities, innovation funding mostly targets projects centered around research and development, but also product prototyping. But another key piece in our digital age is helping businesses adopt new technologies and modernize their operation. Sustainability is obviously another big priority, so supporting clean tech and environmentally friendly solutions. But across all these priorities, collaboration is really the common thread, bringing together businesses, academia, nonprofits, and public sector partners to drive innovation and support economic growth. So there are a ton of joint R&D grants and co-investment programs that require multiple partners and fund these networks and innovation hubs. And these are all aimed at fostering collaboration and turning innovative ideas into real-world solutions.
So the next key theme is going to be critical infrastructure. And from the public sector side of things, it's going to really vary depending on where you're located and what is available at the federal, regional, state, or provincial level. But most funds are going to go towards, cities and counties, municipalities, hospitals, public water agencies, public energy utility providers, public broadband providers. That's usually going to be the focus of critical infrastructure projects for the public sector.
And then on the private side, critical infrastructure involves a really different mix of players. So anyone from utilities and energy companies to telecom providers, transportation operators, construction firms, and tech manufacturers, just to name a few. These organizations build, operate, and maintain the systems and networks we rely on every single day. In most cases, though, private actors need to partner with public sector entities to access critical infrastructure funding. A lot of federal and local government programs are set up to make sure infrastructure projects benefit the public. So obviously it's common for grants to ask for collaboration with municipalities, with local governments, or other public actors. And that's really where PPPs come in. So letting private and public partners join forces to make these infrastructure projects successful, but also beneficial to everyone.
And as a result of that, the priorities that the funders support tend to strongly overlap across both public and private projects, since both focus on ensuring communities have reliable access to essential services like energy, water, transportation, and communication. So some priorities that are grant funded are build and modernize roads, making getting to work more accessible, more efficient, improve public transportation. Similar idea to building or modernizing roads. Accessibility will go a long way. Retail shops will have an increase in foot traffic if more people can visit their shops or establishments. Enhanced grid resiliency technologies, utilities that work even through severe weather helps to ensure the economic development of the community continues to exist. Expand connectivity and access. Everyone should have access to the internet. It is the only way to participate in today's economy. Through digital literacy activities, libraries provide access for many groups of people to use the internet. Accelerate the clean energy transition, lower energy costs, improve the public health through pollution reduction, promote water conservation. Any type of water efficiency improvements is going to help to secure water, ensure safe drinking water. A reliable water supply is essential for any functionable economy. And then you also have strengthened security, whether it's emergency services upgrades, cybersecurity attacks may hurt a city's finances. So to have protection against those types of threats, it's going to go a long way. Pretty much anything to protect the critical infrastructure will help sustain an economy. And then lastly, anything to do with like upgrading equipment to make things more efficient, as well as safer with those upgrades.
And then when it comes to our last point, strengthening supply chains, private sector actors are involved in specific ways. So they're the ones that are going to invest in logistics, technology, and strategic partnerships to keep goods moving reliably. So these efforts are closely tied to infrastructure projects. So for example, roads, ports, railways, and digital networks. And these are what enable commerce to flow efficiently. So it's by collaborating with public sector entities on these projects that both businesses but communities, importantly, benefit from a more resilient and connected economy. All right, perfect. So now we can move on to our last theme of economic development funding, and that has to do with community development. So this is a pretty broad area of funding. It focuses on strengthening communities, improving local capacity, and supporting long-term social and economic well-being.
And grants for community development are mostly open to nonprofit organizations. A big driver for nonprofit organizations are going to be foundations. Nonprofits rely on foundations to fund salaries, to implement projects, to serve as many people as possible within their communities. So you're looking at social services, education, community events. Those are going to be what you're looking for from the nonprofit side of things. You also have, schools, colleges, university. They're going to play a role in the development of community development projects. And then you also have the cities, towns, municipalities, and counties. And then housing agencies are also going to play a role in the development of community development projects.
And then looking at the private side, some federal and local government programs are open for profit entities. So we have developers and construction firms. They often receive support for projects that improve public spaces or housing. SMEs can get funding for initiatives that boost local economic activity. Private owners and operators of public use infrastructure can also secure grants. So that has to do with anything that enhances community facilities. Social enterprises and B Corps, they can also qualify. That's specific to projects that create social impact alongside economic growth. Yeah, so these grants all help these actors invest in stronger, more resilient communities.
And collaboration happens both organically and inorganically with regards to community development. An organic collaboration example might be a developer using an old school building for affordable housing. An inorganic collaboration might be enhancing a sidewalk near a strip of retail shops, which may in turn help revitalize a neighborhood. And since community development is such a broad area, funders prioritize a pretty wide range of projects. It's really crucial to note that the type of funder often determines the kind of community development programs they support, as well as the scope and scale that will vary. National level funders typically focus on large scale economic development priorities like affordable housing or major community infrastructure projects, while regional or local funders support initiatives tailored to specific communities, helping revitalize neighborhoods as well as address local needs. One of the main ones right now, increase affordable housing as well as inclusive development. So that could be upgrade a vacant building to improve the community, to remove that blight that exists, and also provide some affordable housing for those that are in need. Support sustainable and green building, which will allow for an increase in efficiencies. Enhance community infrastructure, that could be parks, could be green spaces, community gardens, trails, sidewalk improvements, community centers, senior centers, anything that kind of enhance the overall infrastructure of a community, as well as promote safety and security. Safe places tend to be more economically viable, so those are definitely a priority for a lot of the funders that exist. So these are especially relevant for public sector initiatives as a strong community allows for more economic activities.
And then on the other hand, when it comes to revitalizing local economies and promoting inclusive entrepreneurship, this is where the private sector comes in. So for example, small and medium enterprises might receive grants to open co-working spaces, incubators, or local retail hubs. Social enterprises and B Corps can launch programs that provide training and mentorship to underrepresented entrepreneurs from minority groups. But together, these efforts helping build lasting economic opportunities in various communities for various people.
Great. So we've covered the main funding themes, workforce development, innovation, critical infrastructure, as well as community development. But what do these grants actually look like on the ground? Let's check out some real examples of North American economic development grants. These grants that Sid and I are going to explain will will cover all four funding themes. However, there are a ton of federal, state, and provincial opportunities where maybe only 1, 2, or 3 of these themes are mentioned. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as you brainstorm various economic development grant programs. Sid will kick us off with 2 examples found in Canada.
All right, so to start us off, we're going to explore the Strategic Innovation Fund, or SIF for short. Basically, this fund is run by Innovation, Science, and Economic Development Canada, so one of the largest Canadian departments. The idea here is to boost Canada's global competitiveness by supporting these really large innovation projects. So anything from research and development, technology commercialization, and industrial investment. So this funding really, it's not small pebbles. They are really significant grants. Projects usually start at around $10 million in repayable contributions. There are some non-repayable support available, but that is usually for nonprofits. So SIF has a couple of streams worth highlighting. The first one being business, innovation, and growth. So this stream is exclusively for the private sector. It helps companies scale up, invest in research and development, as well as commercialize new tech. But then the second stream is quite interesting. So this is the collaboration and network stream. It's all about partnerships. So it funds collaborative research and development, technology demonstrations, but basically any other initiatives that strengthen Canada's innovation ecosystem. So the key here is bringing all of these different players, so the businesses, nonprofits, academic institutions, and also different levels of government, so that everybody can share their expertise, resources, and benefits that support projects of national significance. So now let's look at how this single funding opportunity ties back to our 4 key funding themes. So we'll start with workforce development. So partnerships between industry and universities or colleges, those give students and researchers hands-on real-world experience, and this evidently contributes to building a skilled workforce. And this naturally ties into innovation, which is really the main focus of this fund. So large-scale research and development and commercialization projects drive the creation and adoption of new technologies, helping Canada stay competitive on a global level. And then to make all of this possible, we also need critical infrastructure. So strategic investments in facilities and production capacity strengthens Canada's industrial base, and these provide the foundation for innovation and growth. And then lastly, we have community development. So this ensures that the benefits of all of these different projects are shared broadly. So collaborative networks, research hubs, and regional innovation ecosystems, they all create these inclusive economic opportunities, supporting communities throughout the country. Now, an example of an economic development funding opportunity that's more geographically limited, unlike the Strategic Innovation Fund, is the Idea North grant program. So basically, Idea North is a program offered by CanNor, the Federal Agency for Northern Economic Development. So the goal of this specific program is to support economic diversification, innovation, and greater Indigenous participation in both these things. And then the overarching goal is just to build a stronger, more sustainable, and resilient North. So Idea North has a bunch of different streams to address different regional priorities, but just to name a few, there's sector and capacity development, business scale-up and productivity, as well as small-scale economic infrastructure. So each stream is designed to provide targeted support depending on the needs of the organization. In terms of how much funding is allocated, it can go up to $6 million per project, and a super wide range of organizations are eligible. So we have both Indigenous and non-Indigenous groups, social enterprises, businesses, any level of government, basically any public or private entity. But what's tying them all together is that interest in Northern economic development. So in that way, partnerships are strongly encouraged, helping maximize the impact across these communities. So how does this specific program fit into our 4 themes? For workforce development, it supports training programs and capacity building, so Northerners can gain the skills needed for emerging jobs. On the innovation front, it's going to help businesses with things like product commercialization and clean tech adoption, boosting productivity and competitiveness. When it comes to critical infrastructure, it funds projects like incubator spaces and processing facilities, and these give communities the assets they need for long-term growth. And then lastly, when it comes to community development, the fund's going to support initiatives like visitor centers and shared facilities, and these help build inclusive, resilient local economies. So basically, just like the Strategic Innovation Fund, Idea North isn't just about funding individual projects, it's about making strategic investments that strengthen economic development across the North. So now we've looked at some Canadian grants, but let's dive into the US landscape.
Thanks, Sid, for that great information about those 2 grant programs. So in the US, the first grant I'll speak about is the Community Development Block Grant. And this is a program that there are 2 different types of funds that are available. There's entitlement funds, and then there's direct allocation to states who then award to those recipients that don't reach the entitlement threshold, which I'll get into shortly. But basically, the focus really is on revitalizing neighborhoods, as well, to provide decent housing and a suitable living environment to help expand economic opportunities, specifically to those low and moderate income persons. So it's going to fund a wide variety of services to help improve, whether it's community facilities or services, economic development, as well as those neighborhood revitalization projects. So activities must meet at least one of the national objectives, which are those to benefit low and moderate income persons, to aid in the prevention or elimination of slums and blight, as well as to meet certain community development needs. So as I mentioned, there are 2 types of programs. You have the entitlement program and then the competitive program. So the entitlement program is going to be cities or counties with at least 50,000 people for cities or 200,000 people for counties. And these cities and counties directly receive funds each year from HUD And so no deadline is going to exist for that program when they or receive these formula funds, and then they choose what to do with these funds, whether it's to help with public services, to construct a new water and sewer facility, and things like that. And then separately from that, there's also the competitive grant program, and this is over $1 billion that's going to be dispersed across all states and territories. Any city or county that is not eligible for the entitlement funds, so any city that's under 50,000 people or any county that's under 200,000 are going to be able to apply for this. Typically, it's in the spring, depends on the state usually, but there's a competitive call for proposals. Some states have specific focus areas, whether it's public facility improvements. Some of them might really focus on housing. Others might focus more on the economic development side of things. So it really will depend on the local community. But when it comes to how these programs fit into the 4 major themes that we're talking about, for workforce development, there could be assistance available for a for-profit organization to carry out economic development or job creation or retention activities within a community. There's also potential for childcare assistance to help someone who needs childcare assistance to get a better job or to be able to work full time. Innovation. You have technology improvements to save money and modernize services through various, critical infrastructure projects, which include the construction of water and sewer facilities, improving streets, broadband access, drainage upgrades, increase accessibility to public buildings. And then from the community development side of things, we definitely have seen like neighborhood centers, converting old school buildings into public use, whether it's a library or a senior center, community gardens, trails, sidewalk enhancements, anything to kind of beautify the community to help with any type of community development and to increase the validity of the organization, or excuse me, of the community through those enhancements. And then the next grant program, so some grant programs exist in response to specific events. So in late 2024, Congress passed the American Relief Act, which allocated billions to help communities, for disaster relief, in addition to economic assistance for farmers. So a grant program came into fruition with funds, which is called the Disaster Supplemental Grant Program, which is going to award grants to regions experiencing severe economic distress from various national disasters that occurred in either 2023 and or 2024. So there are 3 types of programs that are available for funding. The readiness path, which is going to be really focused on those, pretty much the community's readiness to apply for or implement a disaster recovery funding opportunity. So it's really that planning side of things is the readiness path. You have the implementation path, which is really focused on construction projects to help address economic challenges faced by a community recovering from a national disaster, as well as to help improve the economic trajectory beyond pre-disaster economic conditions. And then you have the industry transformation path, which is going to be the biggest grant program that's included under this grant program, and it's really for the regional stakeholders to create a transformative economic trajectory of a region through the development or the acceleration of an industry. And this comes from the Economic Development Administration, and they have 5 investment priorities: critical infrastructure, workforce, innovation and entrepreneurship, economic recovery resiliency, as well as manufacturing. So, most projects are going to need to fill these investment priorities. And there's 1.4 billion available in funds. Every grant of the 3, 2 of the 3 have a roll-in deadline. So the readiness path and the implementation path can be submitted anytime. The industry transformation path has a March 3rd, 2026 deadline. And then you see here with some eligibility notes, anyone that is an EDA, designated economic development district, can apply. Tribes, states, counties, cities, as long as there was a severe economic distress or harm because of a national disaster that occurred, you're eligible to apply. They really, encourage that public-private partnership for public infrastructure. So now we're going to see exactly how this program fits across all 4 themes. So for workforce development, there's funds to expand workforce training facilities or establish workforce training programs through different apprenticeships of the focus of the of the community. The innovation side of things, you can accelerate a large scale industry investment, business incubators, industrial parks. You can expand the commercialization as well as proof of concept centers. Then you have the critical infrastructure, so to rebuild or to expand facilities for water systems, for bridges, for railways, for broadband. Those are also eligible. And then the last thing is the community development side of things. You have you kind of expand access to aviation, port, and harbor facilities. You have the revolving loan funds for small businesses to help boost local economy. Those are some examples of the community development side of things. And these are just 4 examples of grants. Definitely encourage you to check any public resources that are available in the U.S., such as grants.gov, or any of the 26 federal grant-making agencies, such as the Department of Commerce, Department of Housing and Urban Development, as well as the Department of Labor. At the state level, there are various departments that will offer grants as well. In Canada, there's the open government portal for various federal funding, as well as Canada has provincial agencies that administer funds for these economic development initiatives. So as we explained, Sid and I explained the funding themes in economic development. You have the workforce development side of things, which is really focused on adding jobs, strengthening the skills of current employees, as well as preparing them for future jobs. Innovation, a lot of it's going to be focused on the research, as well as the adoption of new technologies to make life more efficient. Critical infrastructure, that's going to focus on the essentials of a community, whether it's roads, electricity, public transportation, broadband, public safety, which allows for a community to function, and then community development, which is going to make the community a wonderful place to live and work through various initiatives there. And now Amanda is going to explain the role collaboration can play in grant seeking.
Thanks, Joe. So far, we've talked about what economic development means for communities, looking at how it involves not just job creation and business growth, but investments in infrastructure, workforce development, quality of life. So we also talked about the role that grant funding can play in supporting these efforts, helping communities overcome financial barriers and take on larger and more innovative projects. Ultimately, we're trying to move closer to those long-term goals with this grant funding. So let's discuss how collaboration is essential to this process. So we need to understand why partnerships are critical in grant seeking. So collaborating with other organizations can strengthen the proposal by showcasing collective efforts and demonstrating various strengths. So in a collaborative approach, it signals that a project supported both internally and externally. So we want to have internal partners and external partners whenever possible. So by pooling resources, expertise, and networks, organizations can create better proposals and show funders that the project is has widespread backing and buy-in, increasing the likelihood of winning that grant. So projects with broad reach can impact more people and generate greater value for the community. So funders are often drawn to those initiatives with a far-reaching effects, particularly in areas like education, housing, and healthcare, where services can extend to underserved populations. So partnerships also enhance credibility. The proposal backed by multiple stakeholders signals that the project is more than just an idea. It has buy-in, it's feasible, and it has the potential for long-term success. So partners with relevant expertise further strengthen that credibility by demonstrating the alignment with the funder's priorities and the funder's goals with the community's priorities. And finally, involving diverse partners brings a variety of knowledge, skills, and resources to a project. It's a holistic approach, as we keep saying, showing funders that the project is well planned, flexible, and supported by the expertise needed to achieve its goals. So how do we develop those partnerships? We want to be really, really focused on involving the right people in these grant applications. Before reaching out to them, make sure that we are pulling together our internal team. Talk with people across your agency to get a full picture of what's needed to make the project work. Take stock of what your team brings to the table and think about where partnerships could help fill the gaps. So when we start engaging partners, bring them in early, include them in discussions about your project's goals, and explore how they align with theirs. So make sure all the players have a voice in planning and they're heard. In initial conversations, we really want to keep nurturing relationships throughout the project and beyond. Successful collaboration can help ensure your project succeeds and open doors for future partnerships on future projects. So the final step here is to formalize the partnership with a memorandum of understanding, often called an MOU. The document outlines the commitment between organizations and is often required as part of a grant proposal. And the MOU is a non-legally binding document explaining roles and goals and just kind of cementing that partnership with the other entities that are involved. So when we talk about partnerships, we talk about internal and external partnerships. So first, internal partnerships, we need to identify internal stakeholders. This will be key in developing the project. Look for individuals or departments with the right expertise, executive leadership for strategic direction, finance for budget and viability, IT for that technical support, and others who can contribute that specialized knowledge that you may not have. For example, internal partners for the next generation 911 project you're doing could include a grant writer to write the narrative, the finance team, the IT team, police officers and dispatchers. So all of those voices are heard on how to best implement this program and what benefits it might have. So once your internal team is set, bring them together to discuss the project, explain the grant, and brainstorm how it aligns with your organization's mission. Use the time to build a shared understanding of the project's goals and agree on key milestones and deliverables. Next, we want to make sure we clearly define our roles and responsibilities and assign tasks. Typically, this includes a project lead to oversee coordination, a writer for the grant, a data specialist for evidence and statistics, IT support again, and a financial manager to ensure the budget is realistic and that any cost shares could be met. Establish clear communication channels and regular check-ins to check in on their progress, address any concerns, and to keep everybody on the same page. And finally, foster an environment of open feedback and discussion. Encourage input from all team members and resolve potential conflicts early and build a consensus. So when we're talking about external partnerships, a lot of overlap will be seen. So some of the things from internal partnerships apply to external as well. So this is just as important as building internal partnerships. External partnerships bring expertise, resources, and networks, and sometimes finances, while showing broad support for your project. So kind of here's how you approach external partnerships. So you need to identify the right partners, look at your project's needs and gaps, which specialized knowledge and resources are missing internally. Potential partners can include nonprofits, governments, agencies, academic institutions, and local community organizations. So a great example might be including social service agencies and healthcare providers if the project is building a homeless shelter in your town. Reach out strategically. Contact potential partners via email, a letter, or by phone. Emphasize the mutual benefits of that project. What can you do for us? What can we do for you? And create a win-win collaboration by really clearly defining what you're trying to accomplish and how you can help each other. For instance, a transportation project, if the DOT is taking on a big highway project, the city might connect with schools or fire stations to gather input on safety elements that could be included in the grant. They can address potential traffic disruptions during construction of the grant, and they may also need to secure permits and conduct feasibility studies to make sure everything is by the book. Define roles and responsibilities again, clarify each partner how they'll contribute from personnel and expertise to resources or technology, and establish that communication again. Check-ins are a really, really great way to keep everybody on track and resolve conflicts. Highlight your partners in your grant proposal. We want to make sure that everyone is being credited with the work they've put in. Describe each partner's role, their strengths and unique contributions, include letters of support and reflect partner contributions in the budget, and strengthen credibility and demonstrate that collaborative commitment. So strong partnerships can be the difference between a good or great application. By working together internally and externally, communities can bring a new expertise, shared resources, and demonstrate broad support for their projects. And these collaborations only strengthen the proposals. In the eye of the funders, it ensures that the initiatives are sustainable and have a lasting community impact. So Today, we've taken a closer look at what economic development really means, how communities are affected by positive economic investments. We've examined the 4 major themes that drive it and explored how these themes translate into the grants landscape across the US and Canada. We've also stressed that partnerships are key to converting these concepts into meaningful change. So I hope you've enjoyed the webcast as much as we've enjoyed sharing this information with you. So now I'll hand it over to Ashley to introduce Grants Office Communities. This is a new website that makes finding and applying for grants easier and helps teams work together more seamlessly, making collaboration an essential part of the process. So Ashley.
Thanks, Amanda, and thank you earlier to Sid and Joe for all that really amazing information. I'm going to give our presenters just a few moments to grab a quick glass of water before we start our Q&A. Again, if you have any questions, please look to that bottom right-hand corner of your screen to drop them in the chat. So while I do that, as Amanda said, I just want to quickly share information on Grants Office Communities. It's our brand new search and collaboration platform for grant seekers. We just launched it at the 1st of September, and we are having such a great time seeing folks log in, make projects, find grants, and then work through their application process together. So Grants Office Communities, like I said, it's a grant search and collaboration platform. It's basically kind of like your all-in-one stop for where you can come up with ideas, whether they be for economic development or just for your own organization itself. So you can come up with ideas, bring in your partners, and then find grants in our database and apply for them together. Unfortunately, for those folks in our audience who are here from Canada, the platform is just for US grant seekers at this time, but we do have plans to bring in Canadian grants and bring in our Canadian grant seekers into the community here in the next year. But as I said on the previous slide, this platform, it's really built by grants professionals. The Grants Office team here kind of built this based upon the journey that we ourselves have experienced in grant seeking and that we help folks with every day here. So the platform is really built for you to kind of go on this journey, right? So first you have your projects. That's the first stop here on my road. You can create an unlimited number of project pages to help you start building your vision, right? This can be a page where you just jot down some ideas and what you think might be cool to do someday. Or it can be a page where you really meticulously detail your work plan, you invite your accounting team, you put together a budget, you invite your boss to supervise your progress, and then you actively assign all of those different folks tasks inside the platform to keep that initiative moving together. Then you have your grants. So I checked this morning, we have funding opportunities for more than 10,000 US federal, state, and foundation funders. And that number grows every day. The humans here at Grants Office, we're constantly looking for more grants to add to that database, and we're keeping watch on existing programs to get updates into our system as soon as you can. So as a user, you can then manually link an unlimited number of those grants. You can search through them, find the ones you think are great, and then link them to your project pages. So say you're browsing the database and you see 5 different funding opportunities that would be great for your economic development initiative. You can then link all 5 of those grants back to your project page so that you can keep them organized, but also so that all your collaborators can see them. And then you can decide as a group which one you want to pursue together. And then when you make that manual link, when you find a project and you connect a grant to that project, the platform creates a proposal page for you. So this is a place where you can add users and content that's specific to that grant application. So you can kind of share documents back and forth, you can send each other more tasks, and really, again, keep that group moving towards the deadline in one single spot. And then last but certainly not least, there's a ton of grants intelligence inside the platform on what it takes to submit a successful proposal. So this time tomorrow, the recording to this webinar is going to be inside the platform. You all already heard it. You don't need to watch the recording, but you could if you happen to have missed it. We've got hours upon hours of other recorded webinars just like this one that you can watch. There's also a bunch of articles and downloadable PDFs that you can access, application guides, step-by-step resources, all things that the Grants Office team here has collected over the years that we are now making available to everyone inside the platform. And through every step of the way, the Grants Office team is there with you. So you'll see some familiar faces here, Joe, Siddhi, and Amanda, who you've already heard from extensively today. But the rest of the Grants Office team is in there, again, actively updating the information and also just available to you behind the click of a button of saying, hey, I need an extra set of eyes on this grant. can you help me build out my project for this particular funding initiative? We're all there to help you inside the platform as well. So I'm just going to quickly share subscription plans again, and then we're going to hop over to that Q&A. We have 3 different subscription plans here. The Pro membership is intended for single grant seekers or independent writers. These are our bold teams of 1 who are out there writing and winning grants all by themselves. We also have team memberships. That is for small grant seeking groups within the same organization. So if you are a K through 12 district, for example, you can give access to 3 building principals, 1 person in finance, and 1 person in curriculum development. And then kind of together as a group of 5 people, you can see each other's project pages and work more closely together. You also get to pick a person to be your team leader, and they have a series of customized administrative dashboards to kind of view progress. And then we have our enterprise membership. That's all designed for large-scale use by organizations in the public sector in the United States. So like a local government, for example, may want to give access to public works, sanitation, community development, parks, because they know that grants are a vital part of each of their budgets. So I'll just quickly say, we launched on September 1st. Our welcome discount is still active if you're here listening to us today live. So if you use the code WELCOME50 as you're signing up for your free 2-week trial, you can save 50% off of an annual membership. It's WELCOME50, all caps. And then here's the QR code if you want to hop over to Grants Office Communities and check it out, sign up for a free 2-week trial. If you want to see more, you can also click schedule a demo. And you'll get connected with me. I'll hang out with you, show you the platform on my screen, answer your questions, and we can work through it together. So with that, I have 4 questions in 4 minutes. So we're going to do this pretty rapid fire. If you have more questions, please feel free to send us an email, education@grantsoffice.com, and we will reply to you via email or give you a call. But first, I want to send this question to Amanda, and it is, what is an appropriate time to create and sign an MOU? That came in when you were chatting about in the conclusion there.
Really, the best time is early on in the proposal development phase. We want to make sure that we are filling out those MOUs because they really define the role of each entity. You can assign tasks, what role are they taking, what the expectation is, defining mutual objectives, and it also gives you ample time to gather the information necessary. So there's going to be sections of the MOU that need to be filled out, meaning what's the organization name, who are the contacts, and all the information within. So as early on in the development process as you can once you establish that partnership.
Great, thank you. And Joe, this question came in when you were talking about U.S. funding opportunities, specifically CDBG, that Community Development Block Grant. Is there a way to access the allocation list of the entitlement program funds, and is it an annual program?
Yes, there is. So HUDexchange.info, there's several different, there's a lot of information about several of the HUD grant programs, but specifically the CDBG Community Development Block Grant program, you can export that to an Excel file with the allocation, for the states as well as for the entitlement communities. And then this is an annual fund. It depends not a lot, depends solely on the federal budget. So that's something that just kind of be mindful of. Every indication is that this program is going nowhere. There might be some tweaks as far as what's eligible underneath the Community Development Block Grant program, but it is a program that has been around for several years now, and we anticipate that in the future as well.
Beautiful. And then Joe, while I have you unmuted, what role do nonprofits play in the economic development funding landscape?
It's a great question. Nonprofits, mentioned a little bit in the presentation. There's also a lot of value that they offer from, they're the ones who take up space, office space in downtown communities, a lot of, front office space, as well as offering services to the community. That plays a major role. They also, partnerships and collaborations with local governments as well as the private sector to assist with maybe reaching out to individuals in certain areas to to let them know about workforce development opportunities or job training initiatives. So fostering that the social services that nonprofit organizations a lot of times are focused on, as well as education-based, some of the digital literacy programs you'll see nonprofit organizations are definitely going to have a role in. So it really will depend on the activity of the nonprofit organization, but there are several indirect and direct ways that nonprofit organizations can capitalize on these funds.
Very cool. Thanks. And our last question here, Sid, if you could please help us. What does foundation funding support look like for these types of projects? So I know the examples that you and Joe gave were all federal funding opportunities, but what does the foundation funding landscape look like?
Yes, so foundations are also involved in economic development. They'll fund projects in workforce development, affordable housing, and community development as well. So that's a big theme for foundations. Now, what's cool about foundations is that a lot of them are privately funded, so they represent the private sector's contributions to economic development, but they'll usually only fund nonprofits. So that's a great example of partnership again. And they're also more flexible than federal or provincial or state funders. So usually they're more risk tolerant, so you could try new pilot initiatives when it comes to economic development that, for example, federal funders might not want to invest in. So yeah, they're really important to initiatives like this.
Wonderful. Great. Well, again, thank you everyone for attending our session today. We hope we found it to be a good use of your time. Please, if you have more questions, info@grantsoffice.com, or I think earlier I said education@grantsoffice.com, both really great ways to reach out to us. We look forward to seeing you on another event. Thank you again, Sid, Amanda, and Joe, for all the great content. Talk to you soon.